The hospital I work at has very strange ways and rules when it comes to performing autopsies. I'm a resident in my 3rd year and I've just been transferred here. So far, I can't say it's been boring. Can you, ever? I've met countless patients with the rarest diseases and been through a lot of difficult situations. I guess that's the adrenaline-inducing med life everyone craves. I was prepared to feel confused, disgusted, even scared, and yet, not in this way. I haven't been too precise. Let me rephrase. The hospital I've been transferred to is in the middle of nowhere. I'm talking forgotten village in a valley, almost no signal, maximum 300 people. Why would I take this job, you ask? Well, they pay me well. And you know how difficult it is for residents to actually make some money. My parents were skeptical at first. Why would they look for staff so desperately that they're willing to pay you that much? Well, Mom, frankly, it's not my business. It is if they're making you do weird shit. Joe, no bad language around little Mel, my mother shushed my sister. Will they, though? She followed, frowning. I don't think so. They're just lacking personnel. Think about it. No one wants to go to Fucksville in the middle of nowhere and waste their time, pardon, I meant gain experience for 7 months. They have to attract you in some way. Okay, but call. Or don't. My dad said, spare us. It's enough I have to listen to you complain 24/7 here. Don't want a mini you on the phone saying the same stuff. All right, I mocked him. I really didn't think anything interesting was going to happen anyway. Mostly old people going for the billionth checkup just to get out of the house and make sure they don't die and they live up to being 188, and kids with a cold. I get there, and it's worse than I imagined. I have to rent this flat, which is mostly the first floor of an old building in the Central Plaza, the 4 square feet town center, and stinks of cigarettes and alcohol worse than I do. I have a roommate I barely see and a landlord that instructed me from the beginning not to smoke. The hospital is 2 miles away, in what I like to call the suburbs of this mega-populated area. It's a rotting building with mold in like half of the rooms and a questionable basement, but at least the staff is nice. I don't know how they passed all safety and health checks, but fuck if I care. Anyway, I start, and there's nothing unusual going on. I don't have much to do as I anticipated. Walk around, do check UPS, draw blood, assist, talk to patients. How are you feeling, ma'am? And how often do you say that happens? All right, I'll see what I can do. I took some night shifts in the first weeks, but it was extremely boring and the mold was bad for my lungs, so I stopped. Nothing interesting happened during the first few weeks. It was truly just me and the cold mountains, a lone and mysterious wolf against this darkness we call life. I don't know what was going to kill me first, the mold or the boring routine. Sometime around 9 p.m., as I wanted to leave, one of the nurses approached me and asked whether I wanted to take an extra shift for the night. Before I opened my mouth to tell her kindly to fuck off, she said something that stopped me. We need help at the morgue. I paused, mouth open. I narrowed my eyes. Who died? She didn't answer. People really die here? Wouldn't the population go down by like half? She scoffed. You should really take things more seriously. I accepted, just to break this endless cycle of waiting around. I was writing a report for an old lady, and she tried to make small talk. She looked at me, narrowed her eyes, and asked me where I was from. Does it matter? I'm here now. Of course it matters. You're transferred to the basement now? They must really like you. The old lady looked familiar, but I couldn't place her anywhere in my mind. She wore this flowery coat and had blue eyes that moved around a lot. I frowned. Yeah, yes. Tell me what you saw the next time we meet. Okay. Whatever that meant, I thought. The winter air was really getting to me, so I closed the window, then remembered the mold situation and opened it again. When I did, as the glass moved, I saw the old lady's reflection suddenly bending down and turning her head really quick. But when I turned to look, she was sitting in the same position, looking at me and smiling. I looked back at the window's reflection, and there she was, still bent down. I figured I must have been hallucinating due to the mold. The high pay was beginning to matter less and less. Lights flickering, the air got considerably colder as I got to the basement. It looked depressing, and the hallways were really narrow with yellow walls and creaking doors. For the first time, I missed the familiarity of my tiny flat. There was one doctor there, bent down over something. Hi, you're Mr. Lake?" He didn't answer. He was humming something. I noticed he had his stethoscope on, so I patted him on the shoulder. He didn't flinch, just calmly turned around and looked at me. I saw a dead squirrel behind him, the subject of his examination. I was listening to some tunes. "Hi," inside. "The squirrel?" "Yeah, you get it." I stared at him puzzled as he stumbled to a drawer and pulled out something. "You must be Mr. Hannigan. Sign. Is this an NDA? Don't worry about it." I actually will worry about it. I'm not signing this. What's going on?" He paused and remained like that for a while. I could hear the creaking floors in the hallway. "Is there someone else with us?" "Well, yeah. You'd think we were alone here? Who in their right mind would be alone here?" He laughed. I frowned. "We're together, we're not exactly alone?" "God, you're still talking. Be quiet, Mr. Hannigan. Sign this and be quiet." I don't know why, but I did. Dr. Lake went into the hallway and I heard some whispering. Then he came back. "Okay, they'll bring them in very, very soon." "Them? There's more?" "Yeah, we die in pairs around here." Right? That was the least weird thing I'd heard tonight. I didn't even question it that much. We sat next to each other in the cold room for a while, and nothing happened. Just waiting in the silence, disrupted by one ticking clock and the wind moving the branches outside. As much as I was freaked out, it was interesting. I was a bit curious to see what was going to happen next, and judging by the non-disclosure agreement I had to sign, the night was not going to be uneventful. "Is your name really Dr. Lake?" I asked. The man flashed me a smile. It used to be Blake, but I gave a letter up. Then, right as he looked up to the door frame, his expression dropped. I turned to look, but nothing was there. "They're here," he mumbled, half excited, half nervous, as he sprinted through the door. I followed and, to my surprise, someone was really there. A nurse wearing 3 crosses around her neck, bringing 2 bodies on 2 distinct tables. When she saw us, she nodded. Her face was made only from sharp angles and rough tones, and her eyes had no warmth, no movement, even when she looked at me. Her lips were paper thin and violet, and her hands covered in cuts. She didn't speak, but Dr. Lake thanked her and we pulled the 2 tables inside the room. The post-mortem room was cold and sterile, its metallic surfaces gleaming under the harsh, clinical lighting that cast sharp shadows across the space. In the center of the room, the 2 stainless steel tables stood like grim altars, each one slightly angled with drainage channels for fluids. The air smelled faintly of disinfectant, a sharp contrast to the heavy silence that seemed to settle over everything. Along the walls, cabinets held an array of gleaming surgical tools, scalpels, bone saws, forceps, all meticulously arranged for easy access. A ventilation system hummed quietly, ensuring the air remained cool and sterile, while a sink in the corner provided a steady trickle of water, the sound a soft but constant reminder of the room's grim purpose. Yeah, air ventilation. Good luck beating the mold, I thought, but noticed that this room seemed to be free of mold. It was almost as if it didn't belong to the hospital. "Mr. Hannigan, I need you to take out a notebook and write down what I tell you." I obliged, expecting instructions, initial observations, or anything like that. "Right. Rule 1. Rule 1. Don't talk to strangers." I smiled at the joke, then hovered my pen above the paper, waiting for the actual rule. "You done?" I looked up, still expecting. Dr. Lake was studying me, impatient. "Rule 2. Wait, Rule 1 was, don't talk to strangers. Come on, hurry. We have to be done before the sun rises." "What do you mean?" "I'm sorry, was that a joke? I am dead serious. In this, area, you don't talk to no one. Just me or anyone you know. You see others working in the basement, you do not approach them. You don't talk to strangers." I pressed my pen into the paper and distantly wrote, "Don't talk to strangers." Rule 2. Always examine everything around. A death is not just the end of a life. It is a separation that bends the universe and snaps it in half. Such thing disrupts the atmosphere, so be mindful of your surroundings. Sometimes the clues are not in the dead body, but everything else around them. Great, I thought. This doctor was fucking crazy. Maybe that's why no one wanted to work with him. Rule 3. Look in the mirror often. It helps you be grounded. Rule 4. Don't look at the blood too much. Rule 5. No, their eyes don't follow you around. You're imagining things. Even if it feels real, don't panic. They can't judge you. Rule 6. Don't look at the photographs before you finish. Just take them and let them develop. By the time you have your verdict, write it on the back of the photographs and let them listen. Rule 7. When you're done, thank them but don't fully close the door. They need to leave. Get out of the basement quick, before they get the chance to follow you home. I was insanely freaked out by the time Lake finished dictating, and he must have noticed because he laughed. Don't worry, Mr. Hannigan. I am a professional at this. God, you should see your eyes. They just keep darting to the door, like you're debating whether to make a run for it or not. Trust me, nothing will happen to you. Nothing. I feel like I should at least know what they're for, doctor, just so I know how to behave. For a moment, he stared at me fully expressionless. Then his eyes drifted to a fixed point in space, and he tilted his head. Yeah. All right, but I'll make it quick. We really need to get to work. I nodded. Remember you signed the NDA? Yes. That implies no words to anyone. Mom, girlfriend, sister. Yes, sir. All right. His eyes were glistening. They should have told you more. I don't know why they didn't. So, have you ever heard of a purgatory? Purgatory, in religious and spiritual contexts, particularly in Roman Catholic theology, is a state or place of purification or temporary punishment where souls of those who have died in a state of grace undergo purification to achieve the holiness necessary to enter heaven. It's not a place of eternal damnation like hell, but rather a transitional state for those who are not yet ready to stand in the presence of God. I nodded, and somehow, in the silence of the room, in the cold company of the two sheet-covered bodies, it felt like I wasn't the only one listening. In a broader, non-religious sense, purgatory can refer to any kind of liminal, in-between state of suffering or waiting, where someone endures hardship without yet reaching a final resolution or outcome. There are numerous energetic points on Earth where the fabric of our telluric plane shifts and gathers, and cumulations of energy do happen. Those places become heavy and very important to the passing of souls. His eyes were locked on mine. Listen, Harden. I hadn't expected him to say my name. This is one of them. I opened my mouth to speak, but he motioned at me to shut up. This village is built specifically for these. Long ago, way before history got its name, our people realized that. Right when we came to know what a ghost is, and when we tried to communicate with them, we found out. Purgatories happen on Earth because the spirit is still very human and tied to its body. This hospital is specialized in this. In the corner of my eye, I could swear I saw the white sheet softly lift and come back down, as if the thing behind it was breathing. When you say specialized, he cleared his voice. You felt it. Look at me. I did, and his playful allure had dropped. He was focused and sober. Harden, you've worked with them. No, this hospital is not your usual one. How did you find out about this job? Couldn't be. Through a friend. Do you remember their face? No, exactly. There's a reason why the mold doesn't affect the patients. They're already dead, waiting. Only they don't fully know they're dead. That's why we hold them down with fake examinations until their time to get judged comes. Down here. But why us? You mean you don't do their autopsies to find out how they died? No, I do the autopsy to determine whether they deserve to go to heaven or hell. That's the real examination. And what's my purpose here? Nothing. I just need your intuition. I blinked, confused. Just watch me work, Lake added, putting his gloves on. And then he began. Pulling the first sheet, I recognized the blue eyes and prominent neck veins from earlier. It was the woman I'd talked to that night. I did what he asked me to. I handed him different utensils, some which I recognized, others strange, a glass ball, holy water, a pair of glasses, a deck of cards, salt, sage. I noted down his observations. Upon examination of the heart, significant coronary artery disease was noted. Patient had driven one of her past lovers to a suicide attempt, then refused to take the blame for it. The left anterior descending artery was found to be approximately 90% occluded by atherosclerotic plaque. Patient knew a family friend abused by their kind, but said nothing. The notes kept going, and all I did was stand and write. He took some pictures for the file. Then, after 2 hours, he declared he'd finished and started putting her back together. "You have your verdict?" I asked. "Yes, I do. That's when you come in. I have concluded the theoretical research. I need you, because you don't have any knowledge in this field and are objective, to use the stethoscope and listen to her chest. Hear her song, and tell me what it is. That's how she presents herself to others, and I need it to conclude my research." Hesitant, I put the stethoscope on and placed it on the woman's chest. I hear nothing. Wait, I did. First, she was silent. I imagined her chest, drained of life, and the air flowing inside, then thought of the impossibility of me ever hearing something. Maybe this is really crazy, I thought. I was waiting for someone to jump from behind with a camera and tell me I've been pranked and that I'll see myself on TV soon. Then along came a hush. At first I thought I imagined it. My shoulders and back were tensed up and sweating. Then I heard a snap followed by others. "Rhythm. I hear a rhythm, sir. Doctor, play it to me." I snapped my fingers the way I'd heard, and Lake wrote something down, then took one of the photographs and wrote in caps hell on the back of it. He folded the photograph without looking at it and put it in an envelope. One done, one to go. I was about to lift the end of the stethoscope when I heard it loud and clear, coming from the depth of the woman's chest. My eyes widened. The voice had spoken very clearly to me. Dr. Lake saw my reaction and asked me whether I had heard something else. "No, it's just, I still need to get used to this, right? Can I go to the bathroom?" Lake raised his eyebrows. "We really don't have much time. You can go after. I really need to go now. I saw it down the hall. I'll be quick, I promise." He sighed. "Fine." I nodded, then turned and left, closing the door behind me. I could have left it open, but I didn't. This way, if he came after me, I'd hear. I got inside the stall and did my thing, then stopped. The hallway was silent, and so was the restroom. I struggled to hear any footsteps. I waited. There was no window I could go through. We were in the basement. Then I heard the click of the door. "Harden?" "Yeah, just a moment. I'm inside, I just need to puke. It's been too much for me." "Okay, I'll wait for you here. I really can't puke with others listening. Feels weird." I heard a sigh. "I'll be at the end of the hallway, waiting for you." "Okay." I waited until his footsteps reached the end of the hallway, then for another minute. I got out and turned the tap on for a while, thinking. The stairs were halfway to the morgue. I could make a run for it, but I didn't know how fast he was. If he could catch me, I needed to walk slowly until I'd reach the stairs, then run upstairs, out of the hospital, into the night, start my car and drive. Drive. I took the plunger and hid it behind me, just in case, then opened the door and stepped into the hallway. Lake's silhouette was at the end of it, waiting. I walked, slowly, one foot in front of the other. He came closer, too. Fuck. Say something, talk to him. God, I thought my stomach was stronger than that. "I'm so sorry, it's so embarrassing." "It's fine." When I reached the stairs, he'd come closer. In a second, I bolted upwards, skipping steps, fully conscious he was behind me. Fear had emptied my guts, and my heart beat in a rhythm I hadn't ever known. My mouth dry, I reached the ground floor, only to find it empty. The lights were off and no one was around. The silence was grim and deeply disturbed me. No patients, no doctors. I turned face to face with Lake. "Come back. It's not that easy to go." In a moment, I heard a crack and a thud, and realized my hand had produced it. I'd hit him in the head with the plunger, driven by desperation and horror, and now Lake was laying down, his head crowned by a crimson halo of blood that began to spread across the floor. Blind by fear, my heart going crazy and palms sweaty, I pushed the entrance doors wide open, then looked back only once before hitting the gas. I saw Dr. Lake's dead, wheezing body on the floor, and someone or something going up the stairs, even if I knew no one else was in the basement. That was enough for me. As I drove away, dozens of silhouettes watched me from the windows of the hospital. I got to my flat and started packing my bags. The words I'd heard inside the woman echoed through my mind. A final warning, a final message. They'll kill you after he's done with the second body and bring in another young resident the next day. They just use your innocence. My roommate cursed me for turning on the lights and making so much noise in the middle of the night. I wondered how much he knew about this place. As I slammed the door behind me, I couldn't help but wonder what would happen now, after I'd found out everything and spoken about it. Dr. Lake's dead body remained imprinted in my mind, along with his words, which still haunt me, hours after everything happened. At the diner I've stopped at to write this. We die in pairs around here.